The Chicago Bulls take the court tomorrow against the Miami Heat in their playing game, and many people are asking, who's going to be the X factor? Who's going to be that player that unexpectedly steps up and has a big game, hopefully, for the Chicago Bulls in their playing matchup against the Miami Heat? Talk a little bit about that today, but I also want to talk about Billy Donovan. How much longer is Billy Donovan's job going to be safe with the Chicago Bulls, which many people are asking after you've seen several winning coaches get fired over Billy Donovan's tenure here with the Chicago Bulls? We're going to talk a little bit about that. And we get a positive Lonzo Ball injury update. We're going to get to all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And we're going to start off talking about Billy Donovan, right? So, of course, there's another winning head coach was fired yesterday, Mike Budenholzer, with the Phoenix Suns. And while, everything going on, there's a bunch of shit going on with the Phoenix Suns, to be quite honest. That's not all Coach Budenholzer's problem, but every time there is a winning head coach fired, right, people ask, what's going on with Billy Donovan? What has Billy Donovan done with the Chicago Bulls to have the job security that Billy Donovan does have here? And what is that job security going to continue to look like for Billy Donovan? And here's the thing when it comes down to it, man. I look at it this way. Billy Donovan, as it stands right now, right? And I think you can even say this over the course of his career, he leaves a lot to be desired. I want to be clear here in saying this, right? Because I know this topic's going to trigger one of my boys, Winton, who's always a big supporter. But here's the thing. Billy Donovan is not a guy that I'm like, oh, the Bulls absolutely cannot move on from Billy Donovan. I think the people are like, oh, but who are you going to get if you fire Billy Donovan? Yeah, a better coach, right? And it doesn't have to be a big name. Chasing the big name is kind of how we got here with Billy Donovan. And while Billy Donovan has left a lot to be desired, I want to make no mistake about it, right? But there have been times where Billy Donovan has coached pretty good things. And what this conversation did kind of generate from a conversation that me and Winton were having in the comment section, right? And this isn't a call out. Winton has his thoughts, and I want to be clear. Most of Winton's feelings on Billy Donovan, I completely 100% agree with, right? But it brought about an interesting kind of perspective in this. Winton likes to say, right, constantly, oh, the ex-player is not going to hit their potential under Billy Donovan, specifically now Modest Buzelis, right? At times he's blamed Patrick Williams on like his lack of aggression or lack of progression, I should say, on Billy Donovan as well. And while I see the merits in that and where those things are, make no mistake about it, one thing that I personally don't do and I choose not to do here is to also blame is when I have issues, right? Blame it all on the coach. But when things go well, take away where the coach's place is in that just because I may have a problem with said head coach, right? Or the way that they coach or the way they do certain things. And that's where I'm at with Billy Donovan. Billy Donovan is a coach that I don't think is the type of coach that gets you to the promised land. I don't think he's the type of coach that's going to get you when your team gets to a certain point of being so good that he's going to be that coach that can get you over the hump and into a championship, right? I don't believe that. I just don't think Billy Donovan is that guy. If he proves to be otherwise, just like I said, I'm a reality-based person here. If new information becomes available, I take that new information, I use that, and it may change my opinion. But I haven't seen anything from Billy Donovan that has changed my opinion of him in that way yet, right? Now, I also am somebody who's not going to look at certain things that Billy Donovan has done well and try to take that away and just put it on the players. Just like coaches can hold players back, coaches also either can get out the way, but they also can support. And the thing that Billy Donovan has done schematically, offensively, in balancing two players that both need the ball, but neither one is really good off ball, they need that to be as effective as what they are. Billy Donovan has done a tremendous job recalibrating this Chicago Bulls offense to where you're maximizing the strengths of Josh Giddey and Coby White, and we have players that are playing off that scheme-wise, and it's not just the players out there calling their own plays. When you look at the way that the Bulls are moving without the ball, that's a scheme thing. That's not just players out there because they're moving intentionally. You can see the way that when Josh Giddey cuts and gets to a certain point of penetration, it's an intentional place for either Kevin Huerter to dive, right, or come off that off-screen pick to try to get open, or you got Buzelis cutting and trying to create space by getting to the rim, creating more space either on the outside or pulling the defender away from the paint to have to guard him with his leaping ability. That's an intentional thing. And sometimes I think that some things are easy to look at and say it's just the players because these players are supremely talented, and forget that it's not just that, right? You even look at, like, for example, Eric Spoelstra had to coach the Miami Heat when they had the big three, right? When they had the Heatles, right? He had to coach that team. If they've talked about how Eric Spoelstra's coaching helped them figure out and get over the hump, you cannot eliminate the place that Billy Donovan has had in the positivity while only wanting to maximize what he's done negatively. You just can't do that. That's just something that I feel is not a right thing to do. I don't think that's a fair thing to do. Now, two things can be true. You can communicate it, and it takes a level of awareness and also a level of intelligent communication to be able to say, hey, Billy Donovan has done this right. This is how Billy Donovan has helped. I still don't necessarily believe in Billy Donovan's coaching because of X, Y, Z reasons. And I think like some people don't feel like they have to have that level of intelligent conversation because it's easier just to hate. And that's a social media age thing, right? Hate is easier just to say, oh, they suck. Okay, why do they suck? Because it's easier to say that because you don't have to have a level of basketball IQ to just be able to say, oh, such and such just sucks. You don't have to have they suck because they don't know how to score in the mid-range. They can't create their own spots for their shots. They're heavily relying on people creating for them. It takes a level of basketball IQ to talk about that. It takes even further a level of IQ to break it down by the possession type, those type of things, which is not where a lot of basketball fans are. Most basketball fans are casuals, and that's fine because you don't have to have hours worth of watching tape to enjoy the game of basketball. And thus, if it's something that you're consuming to enjoy, you also have a place of being able to say, hey, I don't like this part of it. If you can't explain it further, great, right? I think the thing is then don't try to get into some of the higher level basketball conversations if you can't have that. I say all that to say this. Billy Donovan, I've criticized Billy Donovan a lot for his record getting worse year after year with the Chicago Bulls, right? And that's measurable data, right? Since their 46-win season in 2021-22, they went down to 40 wins, down to 39 wins, but this season they stayed at 39 wins, right? Now, they did move from being fourth in the Central Division to fifth in the Central Division, and they're going into another play-in tournament. We'll see what that happens with that, right? And Billy Donovan's coming up against a coach in Eric Spoelstra that's one of the best X's and O's coaches in the game of basketball, and that's usually where Billy Donovan gets exposed at, and there lies some of my issues with Billy Donovan. But one thing that he's done well this season is, again, balancing the talents that we've had here. Even when you really look at Zach LaVine and his time here, like, it wasn't that Zach LaVine was the heavy isolation player that he was his whole entire career here. There was more balance at that point than any other point in Zach LaVine's career. Still wasn't enough balance because you saw Coby kind of forced to being a jump shooter. Josh Giddey really didn't get the opportunities to create that, of course, he got after Zach LaVine left. Those type of things did happen, but he balanced it the best that he could. And keep in mind, people forget, too, Nikola Vucevic started off this season playing absolutely amazingly well, which also took shots away from Josh Giddey, Coby White, and others because you wanted to actually feed Vooch. And that's something that, again, we criticize Billy Donovan for not doing in past seasons is riding the hot hand, feeding Nikola Vucevic where Vooch needed to be prioritized that. And Billy Donovan started off this season doing that. He started off the season doing those things, right? So, again, I'm not here to say that Billy Donovan's all of a sudden some amazing coach that needs to be a lifelong Chicago Bulls head coach. No, I'm not saying that at all. But I am saying this is that we're the place that the Bulls are in right now, right? In this evaluation period with 1 year left on Billy Donovan's contract. You're not moving Billy Donovan after a season where he coached extremely well throughout the season. Now, the Bulls didn't always have the best results, but if you look at the coaching that was done, right, which, again, takes a level of basketball IQ and openness to really break down and look at the coaching job that went into some things, you can still coach well but not have enough skill to win certain games. And the Bulls just didn't have that balance, right? They then struck that balance as the season went on, and that's led them to get to the point to where they are now, right? And so I had a video, I think a week or two ago, in which I talked about, hey, listen, do not be surprised if Billy Donovan gets a contract extension. Not to say that I'm calling for Billy Donovan to get a contract extension, not even to say I want Billy Donovan to get the contract extension, but you do look that I would not be surprised with the way that this front office has looked and reviewed things that you end up seeing a Billy Donovan that may get a 2-year contract extension because the Bulls look at that as, hey, we got 2 more years of really evaluating. Now, that all comes down to, is the summer of 2026 really going to be where the Bulls make their move at? Like me and other people think that the Bulls, you have another season of a full season of looking at Coby and what Giddey can turn into. You have another first-round pick, 2 first-round picks between those summers. And we'll see where you sit at that point in time. But the Bulls can make their big move roster-wise and maybe coaching-wise, as that's when Billy Donovan's contract is up as well. And that's where we could see significant change from the Bulls, maybe. I want to leave out the chance here. There is a huge chance and possibility as well. We see Billy Donovan extended. I can't wait to see what the reaction to that is, because I'm sure it's going to be a wild one. But you guys can let me know how you feel on all that down below in those cases. Now, I want to move on to something else, right? I want to move on and talk about the playoff game, play-in game against the Miami Heat. This is a game where, the Bulls, yes, they won 3 games against Miami Heat this season, but that really means nothing when it comes down to a postseason type situation. You definitely want to take things that you've learned from that game, but you can't just automatically assume that it's going to be something that leads the Bulls. Oh, well, we won against them. Like, I put up a poll yesterday, how concerned are you? And I was surprised by the number of Bulls fans like, oh, I have no concerns at all. Having no concerns isn't good. You can say you have confidence that the Bulls can overcome it, but if you have no concerns in a sport game, in a game of sports, then you're just kind of not really paying attention, right? There are always going to be some concerns. And so when it comes down to it, the Bulls got some things that they definitely need to try to figure out, right? Who's going to be that X factor? And let me keep this in mind. X factor is somebody who steps up and does something unexpected to what their usual performance is. Yes, I expect Coby White to play extremely well. I expect for him and Josh Giddey to play well because guess what? Those are the guys that has gotten us to this point with their play over the season. They have been so good for the Chicago Bulls. They've been the engine of the team. I've talked about it. When it comes down to points created, points scored, and points created off assists, Coby White and Josh Giddey have been responsible for about 60% of the Chicago Bulls offense over that time, one of the highest marks of any duo in the league, right? And that's how important it is. That's why when you saw games against like the OKC Thunder, where both Giddey and Coby were marginalized, right, because of the defense of the OKC Thunder, it threw off the entirety of the Chicago Bulls offense because, again, that's how important that they've been to this Bulls team, and they're going to continue to be important against this team as well, right? When you look at Coby White and his performances, right, against the Miami Heat, he's averaged 20.3 points per game over 3 games against the Miami Heat, right? But he's only shot 39% from the field and 20% from 3 in those games. So while the points production looks really good, the efficiency has gone down against the Miami Heat. And that does show, hey, the Miami Heat can force Coby White to be not as solid as what he's been before. Josh Giddey's fared much better against the Miami Heat as far as statistically and numbers-wise, right? Of course, he had the 28 point, 16 rebound, 11 assist, triple-double against the Miami Heat, right? He also scored 18 points, right, against them before when he shot 4-15 from the field. He went 0-5 from downtown in that game as well. In 3 games against Miami, Josh Giddey's averaged 26 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists. He's averaged a triple-double against the Miami Heat, right? So Josh Giddey and Coby White, you expect them to continue to be the engine for the Chicago Bulls, right? Who else is going to step up? There are some candidates for that, right? Of course, Nikola Vucevic. I think that you can look at him as an X factor in this game because that matchup with Bam, Khalil Ware, whoever ends up guarding him the most of the time, if Vooch can make them work, much less get them into foul trouble, it can completely change the course of that playing game, right? But then you look at guys like Buzelis, Kevin Huerter, Julian Phillips, Patrick Williams, Dalen Terry coming off the bench. I'll even say THT has a possibility of being an X factor in this game for the Chicago Bulls because of the nature of how THT can get points sometimes, right? They're very inconsistent at times. And so when it comes all down to this, who is the biggest X factor that I have for in this game for the Chicago Bulls? I'm going to leave it plainly out there. I'm putting this on Buzelis, right? And I know he's a rookie, and I want to be clear here. As much as I'm putting on Buzelis, it has just as equal chance to be Kevin Huerter, right? As far as in that starting lineup, but we've talked about it, and we've seen it. Even with their statistical output being good, Coby and Giddey have not shot in the 3 ball well against the Miami Heat, you are going to need 3-point shooting to create or to get them out that zone defense, right? Now they're going to run a hybrid zone. It's going to be a little scary there. But with that said, you're going to absolutely need one of those guys in Kevin Huerter or Matas Buzelis to be able to hit their shots. Now, the thing that they have to do other than that as well is how are they moving without the ball? How if they are hitting their shots, once you get a defender on them to key in on them, who can take their defender one-on-one, right? And so that's where I'm leaning more Matas Buzelis. What we've seen from Matas over the last 5-8-ish games in the regular season is a player that's starting to put the ball on the floor more. He's starting to find a way to take players off that first step, get to the rim, right? Even drawing a little bit more fouls here recently as well over the last handful of games also. Matas Buzelis, it's a rookie, and I'm not really, you hesitate to put a lot on a rookie, but I'll say this. Buzelis has shown so much that this is the type of game, this is the type of matchup where he's going to be called upon, he's going to be asked and needed to do some things that I think that Matas Buzelis is ready for that call personally. And so how he plays, right, how that aggression level stays the same for him is going to be something to really, really watch in this game for Matas Buzelis as well. You look at him, he's averaging almost 3 free throw attempts per game in the month of April. That is the most that he's in any month. And again, that's because he's putting the ball on the floor more. He's getting more of those opportunities to do those type of things. You're going to need that, right? He's also shooting the 3 ball 50% from the field in the month of April as well. You're going to need that, right? Matas Buzelis could really be a huge X factor in this game. But like I said, make no mistake about it, Kevin Huerter can also be that. With Kevin Huerter, the way effort he's been given on defense, which is another place with Matas Buzelis and those blocks he can help out. But with the effort that Kevin Huerter's been given on defense, the way he's been passing the ball as well, the steals he's been getting, right? The way he's also been rebounding the ball, that is also puts Kevin Huerter in a place to be an X factor in this game. Matas Buzelis, Kevin Huerter, those are the guys that, especially offensively, have so much of an ability to be an X factor in this game. But I also want to point this out. Do not overlook Dalen Terry and Julian Phillips. Do not overlook those guys coming off the bench. If they put pressure coming off that bench, they can completely change the way that this game looks. So we're going to see, man. I think overall it comes down to the execution, the effort, the scheme, right? And coaching is going to play a big part in that as well. Also, how prepared does Wes Unseld Jr. have this team defensively prepared? Because we're going to need a big and overall great defense against this Miami Heat team, which I've said has been playing as one of the most efficient offenses in the league over the last 20 to 25 games. You got to be prepared for this Miami Heat team. So hopefully the Bulls are ready and gearing and ready to go, because this is going to be a fun game, an important matchup, and we'll see what the Bulls have left in the tank. With that said, talking about being left in the tank, Lonzo Ball, who should be left in the Baca tank, shout out to my Star Wars nerds there. Lonzo Ball is resumed basketball activities. This comes from Billy Donovan. He's not playing in this playing game. They've basically still ruled him out to return in the play-in series completely. But with him returning to basketball activities, there is a chance if the Bulls make the playoffs, he could return in a playoff series against the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's the last update that we got. I don't expect to get any more updates from now until maybe he is cleared to return back. And like I said, that's not going to happen this week over the play-in tournament. If Lonzo Ball returns, it won't be into the playoffs, and that's if the Bulls make the playoffs. So for my Bulls fans that have been asking a lot on what the status of Lonzo is, what the hope of Lonzo is, that's it. Tre Jones is still in a walking boot. Tre Jones is not going to be coming back probably throughout the playoffs as well. I know that they left the door open for him to possibly return in the playoffs. It doesn't seem like that's going to happen. Again, we'll watch out. Discomfort, a little bit of swelling. Those things can always change depending on how things go. But I think overall, you're looking at Tre Jones also more than likely not being available for the Chicago Bulls this postseason run. And, we'll gear up and see what the future is for Tre Jones with the Chicago Bulls after that. But that's where things stand. And no update on Josh Giddey's wrist. We could get that as soon as today. The Bulls could wait till the day of the playing game to announce that. So that's what we're looking at as well there. So overall, we got some things up in there. We'll see what happens with the Chicago Bulls in that, and we'll see what the future does hold, man. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys are following us, man. By the way, before we get out of here, right, got to also point in, tomorrow I will do an episode on Bulls and if they're should be eligible for any postseason awards. I want to hear from you guys on this one in the comment section. If you're on the podcast side, send an email or whatever. What Bulls do you think should be eligible, should be in the running, and for what postseason award? Let me know what you guys think on that down below. But that's my time for today, guys. Make sure you guys are following us at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullscentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that's thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break